First of all, I've been a fan of you, not just of your athletic ability, but just you. You're just like that guy. So let's get into it, as you like to say. I like when you go, we're going to get into that. Let's get into that. Yeah. Let's talk about basketball first, because you are in a cool, you're 18 seasons in?
Heading into 18.
Heading into 18.
Yeah, October.
Talk to me about, life is funny. Like, there are peaks and valleys and everything. And I felt like when I was working here at NBC, I felt like I was kind of on top of a wave at a point. When do you know when the right time is to go for a plan B?
I think you start preparing for a plan B. I mean, if you're smart and you have the presence of mind to do it early in your career. I did and I didn't. I thought it would last forever. And then, of course, like you mentioned, 27 years, I'm sure you felt like it was a blur. And those peaks and valleys that you mentioned have been nice to look in the rear view and understand where I learned from both, but also how to apply them in moving forward. I mean, that idea of athletic mortality has, at this stage in my career where, I'm certainly over the hill and looking at the twilight. There's things that I'm having to, consider. But I'm glad I've done the work early. I guess early, probably at that 10-year mark, I really started to consider that, hey, this isn't going to last forever. And the first 10 years went by fast. It flew by. So now heading into season 18, coming up after the summer, it's certainly time to start planning for plan B. But I'm going to try and wring that towel as much as I can.
You got to wring it.
You have to. I mean, and I'm in a great situation now. I've had a lot of great mentors in my career that I've learned from, as well as now being able to step into that role. And I think the gray hair, the guys look at and say, okay, he might know something.
Yeah, the moment, like, my realization came as a real aha. It wasn't like it didn't kind of just fade on the vine. I remember it so clearly. I turned 60. They had a big kind of party out here on the plaza. And I looked out, and I still remember, Kevin, I looked out, and it was such the most beautiful celebration. My friends were there, my family came, and I literally all at once was full of love. And I also said, now, like, I know now. Like, I knew with certainty on that day. Like, it was so weird. It was the best day. And I thought to myself, like, how could I possibly imagine that this would be the time that my heart just rested? And I tested it, like, as I slept. I slept well. I woke up. I was like, yeah, this is right. This is the right time. But sometimes I think things come as ahas. And I think sometimes it's just like, okay, this seems like about the right time.
But what a better moment to have that.
Yeah, boy, that was a biggie. That was one of those. Yeah. That was a really great day.
That is amazing.
Let's take it back to the basketball days early on, because your first love was football, right? Baseball was what I meant to say.
Of course.
Baseball.
My parents didn't allow me to play football. They always said that if I ever ended up out there without them knowing, that they would drive on to the field, literally drive onto the field and yank me off of it. So my dad would take me into the painted area on the basketball floor and say, "You want to play football? This is your football."
But you were a kid who wanted to play football.
Yes.
Did you ever?
That's a good save. I can appreciate that.
Were you a rebel? Were you saying to yourself, you know what, I'm gonna try it anyway, or I'm gonna?
Yeah, I was a little bit of a rebel. But I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and I wanted to play quarterback.
Yeah.
And there was a weight limit, and I was tall, I was bigger, I was, somebody who was gonna, because of my genetics, be taller.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't in the cards.
That wasn't going to happen.
No.
That wasn't going to happen. Your dad obviously played professional basketball. Did you admire him, watch him play?
He's my hero. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was my first hero, and he just passed in April, and he was a giant to me. He was my protector. It was something I wrote about and posted right after he had died on my social platforms, and really truly my first hero. So I want to be just like him. And he gave me a ball early in my life, and I just wanted to be out there with him on the court all the time. And he had great stories of different athletes over the course of time, as well as a lot of basketball players, and he played in the NBA. So that's who I wanted to follow. That's who I wanted to be like. And I think over the course of time, there's people that you try and emulate and also become your heroes after the fact. But nobody had a bigger influence on me, especially early in my life, than my dad off the court as well. And obviously just being around him on the court, he just taught me so much, and I wouldn't be here sitting here having these conversations without him. When
was he the proudest of you?
I put together a list of questions for him when he got really sick about 18 months ago and had almost passed, and before he went into hospice. And his mental capacity, his executive function, all those things were still there, and cognitively he was still there, and he's brilliant. I always said he had a little bit of dyslexia to him, wrote some things backwards, read different than anybody else, but as far as his brain went, I always said he could win Cash Cab, he could win Jeopardy, he could win all of those type of shows. He was just that smart and knew his history. He definitely pushed me into my love for history as well. But he had a moment there, or excuse me, when I had asked him kind of what moment outside of basketball were you most proud of, and it came at a point where it was just a little bit too much for him to consider. Wow. And as we got closer and closer to the end, these things started spilling out of him. And it was like when he was in hospice and we had those quiet moments together. And I think it was just, he said it was early on in my life, the work that I put in order to be just overall better. I mean, I was a rebel. I had my moments where I had, kind of offloaded my hurt and what I was feeling when I had so much anxiety when I was young, and the pressures of being an athlete who was precocious, and the expectation was there. And then it was inherent. It was in our family. It was my father. It was, his father before that. It was, the Wilson side of the family as well. We just were prone to, and still are prone to melancholy, and had our moments of real depression. So I think he was most proud of me overcoming that and not getting rid of it, but just changing my relationship with it. And that's what he had said. Like, despite all the different challenges, he was proudest that I was able to become just a better man over the course of time. And I think he was most proud of my family and my two daughters now, because the greatest gift that we got at the end was that we all got to be with him when he passed, but he also got to hold and feed my youngest daughter, who was 2 months at the time. So it was a special time. So I'm still having trouble expressing it, but I do love speaking about him, especially because yesterday was Father's Day, the first Father's Day without him, because it, in a way, keeps him alive, right? You keep telling the stories, you keep remembering the good and the bad in its entirety and totality. So keep talking about Stanley Stole Love, and he'll remain with us.
Yeah. I love that. So to be able to sit at his bedside and ask questions, I mean, that's a gift so many people would love to have, just to sit and to see what he said. What did you lose the day he passed?
I mean, obviously a father figure, but somebody who was just a cornerstone and a pillar in my life. I think you just lose a piece of you that you'll never get back. And he was taken from us too soon. I mean, 76 is a great life, and his only ask was to be at home and be around his family when he passed. And I think the hardest thing that you lose is just those little moments. Like, things creep up on me at different moments where I think about, oh man, he would have loved this, or he would, God, he would have laughed at this, or people say certain things that trigger such a response to the great memories that we had. And, you know, we were estranged for a little bit, and I think that, you know, division, I said, helped me to find a lot of myself. And you know, I mentioned the probably my first real wisdom, or wisdoms, plural, at 36 of reconciliation, forgiveness, and just another deeper form of love, and a father's love, just like a mother's love. There's just nothing quite like it. So you lose them, it puts a real hole in your life that I don't know if you can ever fill again. But for me, I just, you know, you mentioned your two daughters, 8 and 6, right? And mine are, you know, 2, just turned 2 on June 10th, and then 4 months. And you just fill it with that love and pour it into them.
I think the idea that you found your way back to each other, you and your dad, because I think a lot of people they go through, there are so many relationships where you get estranged for a while, and it's hard to find your way back home. And that often is a regret at the end. It's like, how did we do that?
Yeah.
What brought you back to him, and how did that reconciliation happen?
It's definitely, I think your kids, looking at my oldest, looking at her and understanding that as a parent, you just try and do your best. And I have an older brother, Colin, and a younger sister, Emily, and they just did their best the only way that they knew how. And I think that reflecting on that, as well as, you know, understanding he was very sick too. And I didn't want him to pass without him knowing that I always loved him, and he always loved me. So I think that was, you know, finding my way back at that time was crucial for my well-being overall, right? And I think kids have a way of changing your perspective. It wasn't necessarily immediate, but I think in looking back and trying to connect the dots in the rear view, yes, it was a little bit messy, but you know, I've found that when life is good, it's not easy, and it certainly wasn't throughout the course of my childhood and a very complex relationship with him. But again, the good times were truly great, and I wouldn't be who I am, even with all the flaws, without him. And you know, speaking of regret is so much of the time I've learned within inaction rather than action. Both, of course, but I didn't want to have him pass and not reconcile or even ask him the questions, why, how, you know, understanding the relationship with his father and how he approached fatherhood and what he was most proud of basketball wise or outside of basketball, and how it was being the father of a daughter, my younger sister Emily, or what was it like when Colin was born, and you know, all these different questions I never asked him about his relationship with my mom and you know, their love, and they were together for 48 years and married for almost 40. So how did you do it? Because that is a true success story, and he was you know, in passing how he did with my mom and his 3 kids there by his bedside, that's success. That is what success looks like, is you know, your kids wanting to come home, as well as be with you at the very end, and those relationships are what matter.
Who said "I love you" first with you and your dad?
When?
At the end.
Probably him.
Wow.
I think because it was, you know, it was a complex relationship, like I said, a relationship filled with love, though, truly. I've always had you can ask my wife, I've had trouble saying I love you, but now, again, your daughter, I mean, my 2 daughters have changed that quite a bit, as well as my dog. But it, you know, it was very likely him. He was, he had trouble with always emotional regulation, which was from generational and past trauma. But he never had a problem. I mean, never withheld compassion or saying, I love you. Oh, wow. So I believe that he modeled that in a way a parent is supposed to, which doesn't always happen. But I think because it might have been withheld from him when he was young, or he had, again, a multifaceted and very layered relationship with his father that, it's probably the reason that he was so upfront with his love. But it was definitely mirrored at the end.
What parenting, which aspects of parenting did you take from your parents, and which did you leave on the table and say, we're not doing that?
Well, my mom, she was and is naturally a caretaker. She was a career nurse. She worked in, my sister was a preemie baby, and she was in the NICU. So my mom worked in neonatal intensive care for years. So just being a caretaker and a career nurse, I learned what it meant to show and express love and acts of service and being selfless and loving unconditional. That's certainly what I learned from my mom, and it was inspiring. I'm really in awe of her and how she spent really the last 5 years when my dad really got sick, but certainly the last 18 to 24 months, and then really since November when we had a real scare. We thought we'd lose my dad, to the last probably 6 weeks when the downturn was very substantial. She just she's a lover, a fighter, and again, I'm just so in awe of how she was like on call 24/7 to my dad. I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she had the bandwidth. I don't know how she didn't have a true breakdown, either physically or mentally, but she just pushed through, and that was from unconditional love. Wow. And then my father, it was both what to do and what not to do, right? I think he was a very, I use the word complex person, father, brother, son. I think he regretted a lot, definitely in inaction and not balancing his career right early on. He would have been great in today's NBA. I just want to say that too. He could really shoot the ball, super athletic. Could if he focused on defense, he could have switched 1 through 5. That's neither here nor there. But he was see, the problem was, and it's a good problem to have, he played for the LA Lakers at one point, and so he played 82 games in Los Angeles, and then he traveled with the Beach Boys for the summers, right? Because my Uncle Mike is the lead singer. Brian Wilson, R.I.P., just passed this week, so cousin Brian. And he was his caretaker and bodyguard at one point. Like, that's...
So he was in
it, if for lack of a better term. He was living a really good life, but I think he was living for now. He was a free spirit, and I learned a lot on both sides. He had a lot of success, a lot that he should be proud of, and I think it was his ability to just continue to provide for us and put food on the table for whatever it took. I make the joke all the time that we made just enough money to grow up poor around white people. And that was Dave Chappelle who said that. He grew up in Cleveland guy I got to have a little bit of a relationship with. But it's so true. Like he did whatever he could to provide for us so we could stay in the same house and get a great education and be well fed.
Basketball's your love. Obviously, you were like the star of high school and college and beyond. When you think about your career, you've had so many highs. And after one of the highest highs, after you guys won the title, you made news for another reason. And I remember this so vividly because we were working on the show.
Right.
And this happened, and you had a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because of all the highlights in basketball, I don't remember one of them, but I do remember you, and I remember that day. Will you just remind people who may not know what was happening to you during the game, during that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think. By the way, when I see you, I light up because for natural reasons, I'd started the Kevin Love Fund of September of 2018. I penned that article in the Players Tribune in March, and I'm going to work my way backwards here, but just saw the impact of sharing part of my story, just peeling back that first layer of my struggles and navigating the world of my own mental health and anxiety and depression and coming to terms with getting to the point in the present mind where I'm like, okay, I need help. But it went all the way back to November of that season. We were playing the Atlanta Hawks, and I had a very public mental health episode, and it was a panic attack right after halftime, and went to the Cleveland Clinic, who
how did the panic attack play out?
It was just talk about like those pillars in my life, like my parents and my father being that it was a time where we were having our disagreements and struggles. I think it was also I have still unpacked this with my therapist and others within my life, the weight of expectation and being a high achiever, as well as just being, it being inherent as well, and within my bloodline. And there was just so much going on at that time that I've continued to share, and I think I always say, like, nothing haunts us like the things we don't say. But I was always so against going to therapy. I was comparing grief, and I mentioned withholding compassion, and it came to a tipping point with me where everything kind of just was an avalanche and hit me at the same time. So. It was, and it got a lot worse before it got better too, even through all of that summer. So I still, in some cases, have trouble articulating it. That's why I write so much, because it's a hedge against perspective loss and what I'm feeling in the moment and feeling at the time. But it was just a moment where also, we had been off to a rough start. My teammates didn't know what I was going through. I wasn't ready to expose what was going on at that level. I'd broken my hand that year, so I had the game taken away from me, and I was still trying to go out there and compete in a league that is unforgiving. And I was an all-star that year, named to the all-star team for my 5th time, and still it wasn't enough. It was, I just thought I could achieve myself out of it, and my relationship with being an athlete and feeling like nothing else was very unhealthy. So it was a lot of things.
And for Carson talks about his panic attacks a lot, and you've talked to Carson a lot about this, and he describes them too as a feeling that it feels like you might die. You actually feel like you might die. It's not just oh gosh, my heart's racing. Oh, let me calm myself down. It goes way beyond that into a scary realm. How did you decide to talk about that and say? I mean, feeling it and kind of protecting it as your kind of, because everyone's got their bugaboo that they don't want to say out loud.
That was one.
Yeah, that was one. So the decision to write about it in that publication was a biggie. I mean, you probably didn't know what it was going to do, but why did you think that, let me just say it, so let me get it off my chest?
It was a number of reasons. Initially, it was DeMar DeRozan having just passively tweeted out in the middle of the night that, this depression gets the best of me. And I was trying to hide it and put it off to the side, and maybe was a little emotion phobic, because I thought to myself, this is really going to impact or put my livelihood in jeopardy. And again, it's that relationship with the game. What am I if not a basketball player? What am I if not a high achiever? Is everything going to be taken away from me, and I'm not going to have that safe space that was taken away from me from having that episode on the floor, as well as teammates kind of turning against me because they didn't know what happened. They just thought I wasn't showing up for them. But that's a whole nother layer of complexity that came into it as well. Is if I do share this, are my teammates going to not trust me, or is the organization going to say, okay, we need to maybe move on from Kevin, or take a step back and really assess, is he valuable with all of this going on at the same time? But it was the same week, it was All-Star of 2018. We were in Los Angeles, and there was a former teammate who had kind of driven me into and drove me into speaking about it, because he had kind of exposed that I had some things going on, and this is what happened. And there were rumblings around All-Star Weekend that I started getting questions.
Oh God!
And I thought, okay, well, I don't want anybody else to tell my story, so I am going to decide to press send, and I'll write this article and press send. And my thought process behind it was, selfishly, I can help myself by freeing myself of this. Yes. But also helping maybe that one kid and empowering others to do the same. I mean, it was really scary. It was really scary because, my agent, I spoke to him. He's like, he says, I'm going to speak to you as your friend. I'm going to speak to you as your agent. And in both cases, he had said that this is going to change your life forever. And I really didn't know what that meant. I said, yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm going to put myself out there, in some ways fall on the sword, if you will. But I do know, or he said, I do know what you're saying, in that if you just help that one person, that one kid, because as I've learned, like, this doesn't discriminate. This impacts everybody at one point or another, whether it be themselves or I always say at arm's distance. And like I've gone through this year and losing 2 family members, that you're going to experience grief at some point, and how that impacts you long term. And even in the short term, you don't know. So being, and seeing the outpouring of love and support, and stories from people who share in part of that struggle, it just created so much of a sense of community. And I always say we're tribal beings. Like we need to start acting like it. But it just gave me hope for the future, and that I could be part of something bigger than myself. So from that, I said that there's an opportunity to really help people here, and that's where we started the fund. And in September, I want to talk about that. Of that year, came and gave you a big hug. It was so cool. Give me a few minutes. I'm gonna try and get this right.
I saw. I actually rewatched it because it was really good.
Here we are.
So when you were deciding to say this, you spoke out loud. You got this outpouring of love. Then it's your teammates in the league, because that's really where your soul is. So you may have gotten a lot of attaboys from outside. What happened inside the league, inside your team?
Well, that morning when the article was published, we were meeting at the plane. So we had no practice that morning, and we were meeting at the plane for I think it was a 5 or 6 game road trip, and we were flying to Denver. And I remember going to Cleveland Hopkins Airport, and we're jumping on the plane, and I kind of just sit down, put my hoodie on, headphones, and just kind of like take the temperature of the room. But I remember Kyle Korver coming and sitting next to me and shaking my hand and saying, like, you have a minute? He's like, I have kids, and this is really going to help a lot of people. So, like, again, I talk about my shoulders dropping. I just kind of like settled in a little bit, but I went into went into myself and just try to compartmentalize all my thoughts, not look at my phone throughout the course of that flight. But I can remember, and it's DC and Denver, which are the longest drives on the bus to our hotels. But I can remember parking at the hotel in Denver, and LeBron and I sat almost next to each other. He was at a seat up and across the aisle, but he let everybody pour out, everybody get off, and he just shook my hand and kind of gave me that nod of approval, and since then has really supported me in the space. But it was pretty immediate, I think, as he finally realized that
that's it.
Something was really going on, and he was going to support his brother, who he won with and had been in the trenches with, and that's what not only a teammate does, but a true lifelong friend and a brother. So that was another moment where you have the best player in the world who's mentally so stable, mentally so strong, but I think understands that within his family and Savannah and his kids, that everybody is, again, like I said, going through something that you can't see. So he's been a great supporter in all this, as well as my teammates over the course of the years since.
Yeah, because I remember he put out that very public tweet that was just like basically saying he was proud of you, and that was that was without question. So you became right away the face of anxiety and depression. A long time ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I didn't really want to say anything. And I was like, oh, God, I don't know if I want to be that person. Right. I'm not sure. I said, is that the first thing I want people to think about? Right. I remember thinking about that before any kind of public acknowledgement. So what, you decided that, and without, there was nothing to do with you. It was all going to come. That was the way a lot of people, they'll see you obviously as a basketball player first, but that's probably the second thing. How does that sit with you? And do you feel the change that you're, because you made a change in people's lives. Yeah. Very few people can say that, outside of their own families. No,
it's definitely a great responsibility. And, one of the first things that I always tell people is, hey, I'm not an expert, but I'm going to continue to learn and stay very curious. And I say without fear or prejudice. Like, it's funny, Anthony Bourdain is such a big part of my story, and that he spoke about his best friend in Parts Unknown about Eric Ripert, and he said he lives relentlessly curious without fear or prejudice. And I said, that's it. That's it. And you can apply that in every space within your life, but certainly within this, just understanding the impact that we all can have for the greater good, I think has really helped me in doing my work early and chasing this. A great piece of advice I got early on in my career about basketball was chase the game, and everything you want in life will chase you right back. And I think that can be applied to this as well. I want to chase this space in order to get what I want, and that's to help everybody. Anybody and everybody, help as many people as I possibly can. But there's certainly a weight to it. Yeah. I do believe that I've been approached about or for this, especially in the last several years, or since we announced the fund, and people understood what I was going through, and could connect at in a space bigger than basketball. There is a definitely a weight to it, but I take that responsibility in being somebody that can be one of the faces within the world of mental health and mental illness. And I actually really enjoy it because I'm a giver by nature. Yeah. I just am. And I like to think that my empathy has grown. I've become more evolved. I love and believe in leading with kindness, and it is effective.
Mm-hmm.
It is effective.
Yeah.
Like when it's reciprocated at
Yes.
the other end of that too. It's a really, it's a great feeling. And what better time than now? We live in a complex world with so much going on, even, you know, then and, you know, through the pandemic in 2020 and all the way until now. It's at the same time incredibly gratifying, and I'm grateful, I'm humbled to be looked at as such. And it's, again, helped my, you know, talking about the relationship with just being a basketball player.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just, you know, more than my sport.
I can imagine the things that people have told you or confessed to you or shared with you. Is there one that pops in that you're like, oh my gosh, like this person was going through something so horrific, and by seeing a simple clip or a simple interview, it changed the course of their life?
For me, it's kids.
Kids. That's
because
what you hear.
when I was and them bringing signs to games, and it's not basketball related.
What do they say?
It's like everybody's going through something, or like you help save my life or save my yeah. It's heavy. I'm like very moved by it, and you don't know the impact that that's going to have on that person's life, their family's life, the community. I mean, just you know, at school, around their peers, around their siblings. It's like, you know, that one life can impact many others. And I mean, within the fund, we have our social emotional learning curriculum, and it's all about, you know, the teachers and the kids within the class modeling vulnerability. And we have, I like to call them shares within the classroom, where, okay, you might not have the language, truly the language, and being able to speak what you're feeling, but through these lesson plans in different mediums, whether it be music or photography or creative writing, or, you know, I wrote a poem about my grandmother and shared it at John Adams High School in Cleveland, and that was my first share, seeing the impact that then the teacher sharing for the kids that had was so amazing. And it just, it makes you so much more relatable. And then these kids are saying, wait, you too? And the amazing thing to me is like seeing the young boys and the young men share, especially the athletes, because you're, you know, supposed to be hyper masculine and it's rah, but again, it's that evolution now. It actually is such a superpower. That vulnerability and that strength goes so far in helping them even being a more cohesive unit. If you know the person next to you and you're in the trenches with that person next to you, and you truly know them and see them, it can take you so far. It's like our 2016 team. We didn't know it at the time, but we're truly connected forever from winning, but going through all of that high and low and that beauty among the chaos. And you know, we spoke yesterday, we text every single day, and we're all very you know, complex and layered individuals, and not perfect, very flawed group, but I think we accept all of those things, and just being able to go through all of that together, and losing multiple parents. And Channing Frye had that in the same month, and he had his heart condition. And J.R. Smith, you know, his daughter now just had it was either her 7th or 8th birthday, and she was a preemie baby and almost passed. Like we went through all of that together, very heavy moments. But again, I think it's the impact on kids and the next generation, and them being so open and susceptible to change, which inspires me and gives me a lot of hope.
It's funny because it was you and Tristan Thompson after either it was before the game when he gave you a hug that lasted. Yeah. What did that feel like, that hug, by the way?
Crazy emotional, because I had flown back 2 days after my dad had passed. And I just wanted to, again, veteran player and presence. I wanted to be there in Miami to support the team.
Right.
And it just so happened we were playing against Cleveland, and Tristan, again, we've been through a lot together. I was right there, he was right there, and I just kind of approached him and wanted a hug. I'd missed him in general. Every time that we see each other, it's a lot of memories come up, both good and I shouldn't say bad, just some heavy after everything that we had gone through. But I just broke down. He's family. He's somebody that the true Tristan Thompson has the biggest heart. He's just such a special person, and he had lost his mother and had lost a parent, so he could empathize. He had known what I was going for, and so it was a moment where I just broke down. It was the first real time after the fact where I just let it go. And he was again there for me. It's who we are. We show up for each other.
And I think that moment too, because it's almost like how we often tell our kids, you got to do this, you have to do that, but we're not displaying it, we're just explaining it.
Yeah.
And what you did in that one image, by the way, forget about even knowing either of you well, it spoke volumes. You didn't even have to know what you were talking about, what you went through, what was going on, but that it was okay in front of the cameras in the world to have a moment because you both needed it. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that's like walking the walk. That's everything.
Yeah. And I think you're allowed to lose yourself and feel every depth within your emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, however it comes up, just feel it all the way through. And in that moment, I just allowed myself to be free. And I think it transcends, but the idea of masculinity, that we have to hold it in. We have to, I talk about the playbook with my father, is like compartmentalize it. Don't show weakness. Don't show emotion.
Yeah.
Be stoic in how you go about loss or grief or your mental health struggles. But I think we're so much better off allowing it to happen in a way that we feel both extremities or both sides of that. And I think it'll manifest in some other way down the line.
You do?
I do. I don't know the data or the science behind that, but I do believe if you hold on to that, it will manifest in another way, and it'll the body will keep score.
Yeah.
And those traumas, if it's not from therapy or medication or different avenues of being able to heal yourself or work on yourself, at one point or another, those things will come to the surface. So, and I always feel like, especially men, we'll compare our grief and we won't allow ourselves to go there, but nobody benefits from withholding compassion and withholding those emotions from happening. And I've been so much better off and more settled in myself and more comfortable in my own skin than I've ever been, because I say, hey, listen, this is me. This is what I deal with, and you cannot use me against me.
Oh, there you have it. That's it right there. Yeah. You talked about life after basketball, and you talk a lot about your foundation. I mean, isn't that the natural path?
I hope
or
so.
Is there? You think that may be? I mean, do you see that being the next act?
I really do. At least a large chunk and a large piece of it. We have so many exciting things coming up within the fund, and we have high hopes and high aspirations. I have such a great team that I lean on. I don't like to say I'm the leader. I just want to be part of the team. And we have an amazing executive director, amazing team that is highly intentional and is, so strong. I think because it's a lot of women. They're just like the educators, everybody. It's like I'm so lucky to I actually just got a piece of art from one of my favorite artists in Ed Ruscha, and it's literally my favorite piece of his, and he has a lot of text and words, but it says he enjoys the company of women, and it's so true. I'm surrounded by women at home.
Yeah, you
I
are.
have my wife, even my dog is female, but my two daughters, and just
Boy, you love that dog. That dog's got a lot of airtime.
Do I love that
What
dog.
kind of dog is it?
Vizsla, Hungarian Vizsla.
Oh, cool.
And they, by the way, if you want to see what love looks like, unconditional love looks like,
that's it.
That's it. But yeah, it's going to be a huge part of my life moving forward, and that allows me to settle in as well, because I'm like, I know I always have this, and I always will. So it's become a legacy piece. But I think what's really important to me, which is when my dad passed, and even Brian Wilson passed, it's like how I consider the future, I think, has changed in that I'm not necessarily. Yes, legacy plays a big part, but so does eulogy. What are people, those virtues, not legacy virtues, eulogy virtues.
That's
what
good.
will people say about me? Not, okay, as a basketball player, but person as well, and influence, and just leaving it in a space better than you found it, and just never getting too big, whether, in any walk, that you're walking, never getting too big to do the little things.
And I'm just going to, we'll have one last question, but I want to ask this about your dad. One more question about your dad. There's this saying that says, like, a boy becomes a man. Usually it's after his father has passed. Did you feel a profound shift after your dad died? Some people after a long illness feel relief. In a good way. I mean, like, you can't handle seeing a friend of mine's dad just died, and you couldn't stand watching it. It was like that part. But was there, what sense came over you at the end there?
It was profound, I gotta say, because we were, again, all there, but and it happened so fast. It was, he started transitioning as hospice. They liked to say that, they mentioned that you're gonna know when he starts to, he's starting to pass on. And it was about 30 hours before he actually passed, and and in my post and what I wrote, you're only limited to like 400 words, so it was tough. I have another something that maybe I'll share at some point, but it was just spilling out of me. It was just so profound, in all of the memories and what he meant to me, still means to me, and how I'll apply everything, all of his teaching, some without even him knowing. Some I was just watching him the whole time. But I think in the way that he passed, with all of us around him, it was like right around 6 p.m. the following day, and my sister ran upstairs, and my brother and I had just left the room. She said, "Hey, Dad's breathing has changed. You might want to come down here." And 20 minutes later, he was gone. So we just, my sister and I held his hand. My brother was at the foot of the bed, and then my mom was just, massaging his head and kissing his forehead. And, that's how he passed. And again, I spoke about it earlier, that he didn't want it any other way. That was his only wish. But it was self-reflection. It was reflection on fatherhood and family. And you had talked about going home, and talked about the idea of home and what that means. I had, after a long time, even dating back all the way to, my teenage years, maybe even my pre-teenage years, finally made peace with back home. So I think that changed me in a major way. I do feel like, and I mentioned those wisdoms of forgiveness and reconciliation, it was also a deeper sense of what love truly is and what love truly means. So the reflection, Father's Day, it feels just incredibly meaningful, in seeing the positives and the good times that we shared and we had. But it's definitely allowed me to come to a different place in my life where I feel like I'm more settled and understand what's really important in life, and my gratitude has just gone through the roof.
Wow. Do panic attacks still come?
They used to manifest when I was younger in like rage. I always had a place to escape to, and I think and you see this a lot. If you don't have that emotional outlet, if you are emotion phobic, if you don't have somewhere to escape to, it does manifest in ways that I'm certainly not proud of. And I used to offload hurt when I was younger.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge regret in my action, in my inaction, and not, speaking of reconciliation with some people that I hurt, and in some cases it was people I really loved and cared for. But that has helped me in looking back and connecting the dots and helped me grow. So it used to manifest in rage. There was panic attacks, that happened after the fact in not a public setting. I had, not a lot of people know this, but there was another game in that season when there was a very similar one where I just escaped, left the locker room and went home. And nobody knew what happened. And then, there's another one that had happened a few seasons ago as well. But in terms of the last couple years and my, after my daughter being born, I just think they have such a profound impact on your mental health and understanding that when I feel these things, I have a place to just pour so much love and gratitude and also just getting out ahead of it as well.
Yeah.
Just getting out ahead of it, doing my work early, as I mentioned earlier, understanding that I need to put my own oxygen mask on before I assist others. That has been something that I've truly had to learn. So it's less and less, but even now that, I take medication, I do everything I can to change my relationship with, my feeling of anxiety, but those really dark spells that lasted for weeks and even months have come to a much, much better place that I'm proud of having done the work. I mean, I know it's something that doesn't just go away, and anybody that sells you a quick fix for mental health is doing you a disservice. But I'm an unfinished product. I mean, that's the beauty of basketball too. You can wake up every day and get better, and that's how I'm approaching my mind, my body, and my soul.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right, we call this podcast Making Space. So pretend that you had a day that was just for you.
Okay.
You had not one single obligation, nothing. From the moment you opened your eyes to the moment you closed them at the end of the day, and you could fill your day any way you wanted, do whatever you pleased. How would that one day play out for you?
How would it play out? I'd wake up before my daughter gets up, or both daughters get up. I would, kill two birds with one stone. Is working out. I would,
of course,
take care of my physical health, make sure that my nutrition is right throughout the entire day. But my answer is really easy. I mean, I speak about it all the time. It's like it's even before I came here. I go just spent it with my two daughters and had breakfast with my daughter, and she was stealing some of my eggs and my blueberries. And so I base everything around their nap time. And then if there's one thing that is a non-negotiable, and it used to be, I got to get home and take my dog out. Yeah. So that was like my escape route, right? I always had an exit plan. Yeah. So I always say I'm an introvert with polished extrovert skills. Okay. Right? I'm like a shy loud. I actually do well in like settings where, there's a ton of people and it's high performance and it's driven me. But the non-negotiable is bath time and bedtime. Okay. Yeah. So
that's your perfect day right there.
That's my perfect day. Anything that else, whether it's work outside of basketball, working on the fund or a creative project, because I love that creative impulse, or something I'm very curious about, basketball, everything revolves around them, and I would have it no other way, because I like I said, I'm a giver. I'm somebody who loves to make other people's lives better, like make people feel good, and I enjoy being kind, and I love my daughters. So that's the perfect day. It's the perfect day.
By the way, that is the perfect day.
To me, there's no other answer. Yeah.
I love it. Kevin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The best.
Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.